the President Pro Tem of the Senate, Senator Butch Miller. It is indeed an honor to recognize the First Lady of the Senate, Ms. Nita Cagle. A lady who has brought great honor to our state, leading with dignity and class, working hard, particularly for Georgia's children, and done an amazing job as our First Lady. Please help me honor Ms. Sandra Deal. Mr. Doorkeeper.
Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Nathan Deal, Governor of Georgia, his distinguished guest, and Committee of Escort await entrance to this chamber.
Mr. Doorkeeper, please allow the Governor, his Committee of Escort, and distinguished guest access to the House chamber.
It's Dave. I'm sure it's them. They turned their system on and off. I've got no control over it.
Members of the House and the Senate, this joint
It's
session
them, it's not me.
will now come to order. The clerk will read a resolution.
Okay.
House Resolution 869 by Representative Burns, the 159th. A resolution calling a joint session of the House of Representatives and the Senate for the purposes of hearing a message from the Governor, inviting the Justices of the Supreme Court and the Judges of the Court of Appeals to be present at the joint session and for other purposes.
82 governors have led Georgia since we became a state. Few have earned the distinction that comes with greatness. having made profound, positive, and lasting changes to the present and future of our state. Governors such as Carl Sanders and Zell Miller come to mind as a couple of those. But I am confident that when the history of this state is written for the first part of this century, that Governor Nathan Deal will join the ranks of those truly great governors, both with the policy initiatives he has championed and for the qualities of leadership that he has demonstrated. From an economic development agenda that is recognized as the best in the nation, to preservation of the Hope Scholarship Program, to historic criminal justice reforms, Nathan Deal has worked tirelessly every day to make Georgia great. He has been a strong and resolute leader with the courage to do the right thing, regardless of the political slings and arrows. Having known this man for almost 40 years and watched his career as a juvenile court judge, an assistant district attorney, a state senator, and a United States congressman, the occasion of his final State of the State address gives rise to a range of thoughts and feelings for me. I am sad that we only have one more year of his leadership, even though I heard your speech the other morning and I agree with you. I'm confident this will be a challenging and exciting year, but I'm glad that he passed this way. Generations of Georgians will be better because of the lasting legacy which he leaves us. He and his family have represented this state with great class, dignity, and humanity. And as I have before, I want to particularly thank the First Lady, Ms. Sandra Deal. I am proud to call you my governor, and even prouder to call you my friend. You have set a high bar for those who would follow in accomplishment, in integrity, and in devotion to this state. My colleagues, I hope you will join with me in welcoming and showing appreciation of a truly great governor, Governor Nathan Deal.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that very kind introduction. Oh, my gosh. Thank you. Thank you. Lieutenant Governor Cagle, Speaker Ralston, President Pro Tem Miller, Speaker Pro Tem Jones, members of the General Assembly, constitutional officers, members of our judiciary, consular corps, and my fellow Georgians. This marks the 8th and final time that I come before you to report on the state of the state. In preparing to do so, I thought back about all the challenges that we have faced for the better part of the last decade and of all the successes that have been achieved together. I considered the plans we have set into motion that will carry us well into the next decade and beyond. I look back on where we started in 2011, when only 111 of the 236 legislators here today were serving in this General Assembly, and I was very pleased to see just how far we've come. And now, as we embark on a year of transition and set our gaze on what the future will hold, I'm reminded of a sort of a parable that has passed down through time from ancient Israel. It is one that each generation and many different civilizations have adapted to and adopted to their cultures over the centuries. As the story goes, there was once an older man who went out one day and planted a tree in his yard. A neighbor passing by saw what he was doing, stopped, shook his head, and began to laugh and said, "Oh man, you're a fool. What good will it do you to plant a tree now that you're so old? You may not live long enough to be able to sit under the shade of that tree or enjoy its fruits." The old man rose from his knees, looked at his neighbor, and replied, "I'm not planting this tree for me. I'm planting it for those who come after me. Someday, they will come here during the heat of the day and be cooled by the shade of this tree. When I was a small child, I could eat fruit because of those who had planted the trees before me. Am I not required to do the same for the next generation?" Over the past 7 years, we have endeavored to plant whole orchards of opportunity, some of which will not bear their fruit until those of us have come and gone, and there will be others sitting where you sit today. We have done so not only to bring Georgia out of the Great Recession and make our people prosperous once again, but also to ensure that our children and grandchildren will live in a thriving, safe, and resilient state that they can be proud of. A place where hard work can lead to fulfillment of a life's dream. 7 years ago, Georgia's unemployment rate stood at 10.4%. Since then, we have created roughly 675,000 new private sector jobs, and our unemployment rate is at its lowest level in over 10 years at just 4.3%. And it bears my saying one more time, on top of all that, we've been named the #1 state in which to do business for the 5th consecutive year. Just this past fiscal year alone, the Georgia Department of Economic Development's Global Commerce team helped to generate some $6.33 billion in capital investment here in Georgia. That outstanding growth is a result of 377 expansions and locations that cover every region of our state. You know, many people think that economic development projects only happen in the metropolitan Atlanta region. But in fact, 80% of those in fiscal year 2017 took place outside of the metro Atlanta region. Our dedication is to the whole state, and the results of our top-ranked Department of Economic Development bear that out. We have with us today all 3 of the commissioners who led that agency during my time as your governor: Chris Comiskey, Chris Carr, and Pat Wilson. Will you gentlemen please stand so that we can thank you and your teams for the exceptional work you've done. As we consider the achievements of their respective dedicated teams, we should take notice of a tree that we replanted, you might say, which has taken deep roots in recent years and has borne greater and greater harvest with each passing year. I'm referring to the film production industry. Just 10 years ago, this industry generated $241 million in economic impact for our state. This past fiscal year alone, it generated $9.5 billion of economic impact. That's quite impressive growth for this tree of opportunity. So great have our gains been that in 2016, Georgia was named the #1 filming location for the most successful movies. Our growing Georgia Film Academy and the list of studios in our state will also ensure that this year's production industry impact will be greater than even those records that have been set before. In just 2 years, roughly 1,900 students have utilized our Film Academy courses, and a further 625 students are currently enrolled this semester. So effective has this program been that it now spans 13 university and technical college partners, and it has quickly become known as the gold standard in film and television production workforce training. In fact, when other states and countries around the world seek out guidance on building their own production workforce, the Motion Picture Association of America now directs them to the Georgia Film Academy. That same association tells us that the film industry is responsible for more than 92,000 jobs in our state. These are high-quality jobs with an average salary of nearly $84,000. That's 75% higher than the average salary in our nation. More than 200 new companies have located in the state to support this blossoming industry. These businesses and the infrastructure they build are creating permanent jobs for costume and set designers, electricians, camera operators, actors, and other skilled industry professionals. We seek to make Georgia a leader in all industries, however, which is why we have invested so much in our K-12 education system, because we know that the students of today will indeed be the workforce of tomorrow. As the man in our parable remarked, when I was a small child, I could eat fruit because those who came before me had planted trees. Am I not required to do the same for the next generation? For however long we are granted the privilege of serving our fellow Georgians, we must strive to do the same. And so I would like to highlight the orchards of opportunity that we have planted together, and they have had the most far-reaching impact in our state. And they are the ones that have affected Georgia's youngest citizens directly. We have increased education spending by $3.6 billion over the last 7 years, which includes my final budget proposal, making the total education expenditure during my time as governor roughly $14 billion. No other administration in Georgian history has planted so many trees of knowledge. One such tree that we planted this past year is the Sandra Dunnigan Deal Center for Early Language and Literacy at Georgia College and State University in Millersville. It is a training and research center that focuses on children from birth to 3rd grade, perhaps the most critical period of any child's development and education. It is during this window of opportunity that we can best lay down a strong, enduring foundation for all other aspects of a student's academic career. If we fail to reach Georgia's youngest minds during that time, if we fail to get them reading on grade level by the end of the 3rd grade, they are much more likely to fall behind, both in the classroom and the life that awaits them beyond. So I want to take this opportunity to recognize and thank one of the greatest standard bearers of this issue of childhood literacy that Georgia has ever been blessed to have. She is a loving mother, 4, and a grandmother of 6, who spent much of her life in the classroom as one of our state's many dedicated educators. When our parents grew older and endured poor health, she invited them into our home, where they lived for many years. She looked after them and provided for their needs. Her kindness is genuine and powerful. To those who are in her company, it seems almost infectious, and it has touched countless hearts over the years, especially mine, over the past 51 years that I've been blessed to call her my wife. The English author Godfrey Wynne wrote, No man succeeds without a good woman beside him, wife or mother. If it is both, he is twice blessed indeed. I am one of those individuals who has been twice blessed indeed to have such a magnificent partner, friend, wife, and mother stand beside me all of these years. What joys I have had the privilege to have in this life and in this profession are thanks in no small part to her generosity and her efforts. Her passion has always been and continues to be improving the lives of children. When she became the First Lady of our state, her efforts to improve child welfare and educational opportunities did not stop. They only grew and took on new forms. I can tell you that she has visited all 159 counties, some of them multiple times, all 181 school systems multiple times, and in total she has now visited in 834 individual school visits to date and has no plans of slowing down anytime soon. But the real importance of those numbers can only be understood if you have the pleasure of seeing her in a classroom. And what comes to mind to me is Brooks Coleman. She doesn't just visit a school with a handshake with a principal and taking a photo. She reads to children. She listens to them intently. She hugs them in the way that only a mother or a grandmother seems to know how to do, so that they know that she cares about them and she is concerned about their future. You know, after these visits, we usually get a stack of letters from the children thanking her for her visit. These are just little tokens of appreciation, often written in crayon, that we receive on a regular basis. Now, one such package was a letter from a student in an early grade who wrote to Sandra and said, "Thank you for visiting my school, and thank you for running the state of Georgia." Sandra showed me that letter because she wanted me to know that the students appreciated her real job. She also wanted Chris Riley, my chief of staff, to know who ran the state of Georgia. Will you join me in welcoming the First Lady of Georgia, who is truly the First Lady in every sense of the word? I see she doesn't have much more control over you than I do, so. When I took office in 2011, there were many dilemmas facing our state. And so before we even began to plant new orchards of opportunity in the fertile ground of Georgia, we went about the business of saving those trees which were in danger of being felled by the economic downturn. One of the most critical was our Hope Scholarship and grant programs, which were literally on the cusp of bankruptcy. The legacy of a man who impacted Georgia perhaps more than anyone else in the latter portion of the 20th century, Governor Zell Miller. It was one of the most generous merit-based scholarship programs in the country when he created it. It continues to be so today because of the reforms we put in place 7 years ago. Thank you to Governor Miller and for all that he did to establish this very far-sighted and continuing program. Because we together did the difficult but necessary work of saving that tree of opportunity, many more students will sit under its shade in the years to come and benefit from its fruit of higher education, whether it is in the form of a certificate, an associate's degree, or a bachelor's degree. Our public colleges and universities have been and will continue to be a source of pride. In fact, according to the 2018 U.S. News & World Report Public School Rankings, Georgia is currently one of only 3 states to have more than one higher education institution in the top 20. Our state will depend on the continued production of quality graduates from these types of institutions if we want to preserve our educated, trained, and sustained workforce. In order for us to achieve that goal, we must have workers who possess the requisite knowledge and skills for the jobs of today and the future. Some of those jobs will require a college degree. Others will require certifications and more specialized degrees from a technical school. We need both our university and technical college systems to remain competitive, and I am happy to report that both have adjusted their degree and training programs to meet the needs of our state's diverse economic climate. With us today is the new commissioner of our technical college system. He's Matt Arthur, who also, by the way, helped lead the University of Georgia Bulldogs to their 1980 national championship as an offensive lineman. Matt, in recognition of your leadership on the field and in the field of education, would you please stand and let us recognize you? While we continue to support and expand the opportunities within our university system, I have also been pleased that in recent years we have added certificate and degree programs within our technical college system that provide a solution for the problems we faced coming out of the Great Recession. At the height of our unemployment rate, I asked the employers of this state, can you find proper candidates here in Georgia for the open positions in your company? Their answer was often a very loud no. So we created a program known as the Hope Career Grant that covers 100% of tuition for technical college students who enroll in one of our Georgia strategic industry high demand fields. Now, although this program is only a few years old, it is already bearing exceptional fruit. In fact, of those students who take advantage of this resource, 99.2% find employment upon the completion of their training and studies. That is why I was proud to grow that forest of potential by adding 5 new categories to that incredibly successful program. So, as of 10 days ago, we now have 17 specific fields that allow our employers to answer yes when I ask them if they can find qualified candidates for open jobs. Throughout our state, at all 22 TCSG campuses, we have pockets of excellence in terms of economic development. In order to better leverage those tools, I am happy to announce that we will create a new deputy commissioner position within our technical college system. This individual will develop and maintain a unified process within our 22 campuses, coordinate with the university system and the Department of Economic Development, so that as they interact with companies here in the state of Georgia. This will create an organized and seamless effort to assist existing businesses that can benefit from TCSG training in an ever-changing and evolving marketplace. I would like to introduce to you the woman who will fill that new Deputy Commissioner role. She's with us today. Laura Gamage, would you please stand and allow us to recognize you for the important job you will be doing? To further aid those coming into our workforce or those seeking new opportunities, we will also be moving our state's Division of Workforce Development to the technical college system. In addition, we will be relocating the state's customized recruitment office to TCSG, further consolidating these separate workforce development components into a more streamlined and workable system. Our technical college system is a resource whose benefits to the entire state will only increase as the number of students increases. In light of the fact that 30% of Georgia's high school students choose not to pursue further education opportunities after they graduate from high school, we initiated a broad marketing campaign over this past year that showcases all that a technical college has to offer. It is already producing great results, reaching young adults throughout our state who would not have considered previously a career opportunity at one of our technical colleges. To build on that success, my proposed budget includes an additional $1 million for this campaign so that we can strategically market the colleges throughout Georgia. I want to share with you some of those fruits of our labor today. So please direct your attention to the following videos that feature students telling us about the great opportunities available through TCSG, and you will also hear from a young man whose life journey was significantly altered by specialized training offered through TCSG.
Now is the time to answer. What's next? With the Technical College System of Georgia, quality education is affordable, offering courses that will transfer to a long list of four-year universities, and an opportunity to pursue a career in a high-demand field where Georgia's Hope Career Grant could cover 100% of your college tuition costs, with 22 colleges and 85 campuses.
TCSG. Meaningful careers start here. Visit tcsg.edu to learn more.
While you're in high school, you can take college courses, earning both high school and college credit. This is the first step toward doing what you love at the Technical College System of Georgia, with over 22 colleges and 85 campuses. Save time, save money. With dual enrollment, get a jump start on your college experience.
TCSG. Meaningful careers start here. Visit tcsg.edu to learn more.
I appreciate you coming in today, and really think you've taken the time to come in, and you've got a great story and one that we'd like to talk a little bit more about that really exemplifies what the TCSG means to the state of Georgia and the workforce of Georgia. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm Joshua Hutchison. I'm originally from Dawson County. I made some bad decisions in my life, got put in prison. But while I was there, West Georgia Tech gave me an opportunity to get involved in a welding program. I completed the program, got my certificate. I got out. The day after I got out, I got a job working at Field Dell on maintenance. I make $18 an hour. I've got my life back. I got my son back. I've got a job, a car, a house. And it really is all because I got out and I had a skilled trade from West Georgia Tech when I got out that I could present to somebody and tell them that I'm a skilled craftsman. And they hired me on the day I got out.
What does that job mean to you, Josh?
It means everything. I mean, I probably could have got out and got a job at a fast food restaurant or something like that, you know, but being able to go through this program with the help of the instructors and teach me how to weld, I was able to get a job where I could actually get on my feet and do something while I, you know, and not have to go back to where I came from.
How long was the program?
It was 6 months. It was 6 months complete.
Did the mobile lab come to you, or where did you actually have the welder?
We had a trailer out on outside the prison, And they moved a trailer in, put in a bunch of welders, and brought the Scott Edson from West Georgia Tech out there to instruct us, and we started hammering it out. And there was 10 of us. Nobody knew how to weld or nothing, but all 10 of us passed, graduated, and passed with flying colors.
And so now you're a certified welder by the state of Georgia.
Yes, I am.
Congratulations.
So I think the thing that the governor's office and the state of Georgia has done to help inmates out with these programs is one of the best things. Well, the whole time I was in prison, I never seen nothing like it. You know, I mean, they have little vocational things where they teach you things, but where you leave with an actual degree from a technical college saying that you've completed this course and you are certified, I mean, there's nothing like it.
At no cost to you?
At no cost at all. I mean, I got out, I had my boots, they let me keep my welding helmet, welding gloves, they let me keep all that when I got out, so I was fully prepared to get a job. You know, and it's been a blessing. I think whoever set it up to do these vocational things for inmates and all that to get out and have a better life, I think it's one of the best ideas they've ever come up with.
Well, one of the rock stars in your situation is a woman named Laura Gamage. And she's the one that set it up. She's the one that cut through all the red tape and had this program put together and got off the ground at West Georgia Tech.
Yeah, it's amazing.
We are pleased to have Joshua Hutchinson with us today, along with his welding instructor, Scott Edson. And please welcome both of these as these gentlemen stand for us today. Joshua and others like him around the state are why I am adding $1 million to my amended budget proposal to fund 2 mobile labs that will further enhance our ability for those who are studying welding in our TCSG program. Yet another area where we are planning samplings that will soon cover our entire state is in the field of transportation. 3 years ago, I asked this General Assembly to act boldly and provide a means of transportation funding capable of addressing our aging infrastructure. Because of your brave action and the bipartisan support, we were able to make the first meaningful transportation investments in an entire generation through projects that are now sprouting up throughout our state. Thanks to the Transportation Funding Act, we are preparing for future generations and the sustained growth we're seeing throughout our state through our unprecedented 10-year, $11 billion transportation investment plan. Now, speaking of highway infrastructure, the last time I really spoke to this gathering was on Sine Die of last year, the same day that a fire was set under a portion of Interstate 85 and it collapsed. So as you're leaving town this year, after Sine Die, please don't start any fires. Of the many men and women throughout Georgia who we have to thank for our transportation improvements, there is one in particular who deserves our gratitude and for making our Department of Transportation the most capable and the most cutting edge in the country. We're fortunate to have that man with us today, so I would like to ask Commissioner Russell McMurray to stand as we give him a round of applause. Over the past 7 years, we have partnered together on many great undertakings that now serve as the standard for other states to emulate. One of the proudest of those has been our overwhelmingly successful and bipartisan criminal justice reforms. This is a tree well planted and one that is changing the lives for the better every day. We're also doing what so many others thought impossible only a decade ago, and that is offering to those who have made mistakes but are willing to work hard to correct them a second chance through our accountability courts. The roots of this growing system have taken time to grow, having met obstacles in the soil along the way, but they have proven to be the most effective component of our overall criminal justice reforms. Individuals whose lives were once controlled by addictions are now able to reclaim forfeited potential, reconnect with their children, retain employment, and contribute as tax-paying citizens, and restore hope for a brighter tomorrow. If you do not think this makes a difference, I invite you, on behalf of all judges of accountability courts in this state, to attend one of their graduation ceremonies. You will find that your money has been well spent. From the time we first began our criminal justice reforms, the number of state-funded accountability court programs has increased from just 12 to 149. And I am happy to report that every one of our 49 judicial circuits now has at least one type of accountability court in operation. When we consider the savings to all Georgians in the form of lower public expenditures, lower rates of crime, and lives made whole, our criminal justice reforms, especially our education and re-entry initiatives, have been well worth the investment. This tree of reform and redemption has taken root quickly and is growing new branches of reclaimed opportunity every day. It is now greater than any other tree of its kind in the nation, and one that will continue to put Georgia at the pinnacle on this issue. We would be remiss if we did not take this opportunity to thank all of those who have had a hand in planting our criminal justice reform tree. If you have been a member of the Criminal Justice Reform Council, would you please stand and be recognized? You members of this General Assembly have almost unanimously supported this Council's recommendation over the past 6 years. This year, I will be asking you to favorably consider more of their recommended reforms, further enhancing our public safety. A couple of weeks ago, I had the pleasure of addressing Georgia's newest Georgia Trooper School, which was 101 Trooper School, a fitting conclusion to the 80th anniversary of the Georgia State Patrol. These men and women of courage who wear a badge and a vest each day in service to their fellow citizens help make our communities safer places to call home. They, along with our local police officers, our GBI personnel, our DNR Rangers, our corrections and parole officers, and our National Guardsmen, they all help protect our lives and our property. It is because of their valor and remarkable devotion to duty that we as Georgians can live in a safer state. These everyday heroes are the ones who protect our trees of opportunity and ensure that they can grow unabated for future generations to enjoy. Will you join me in recognizing that valued service of our law enforcement officers in this state? This past year, we planted a tree of hope for families that confront mental health issues. My office created a commission on children's mental health last June. charging them with providing recommendations on improving state mental health services for our children. I can now tell you that the Commission's report has been received, and my budget proposal includes $22.9 million in funding based on their recommendations. I don't know what you think about what I've said up to this point, but I want to make it clear this is not my obituary, nor a farewell address, but it is the last time that I will have the opportunity to address all of you in this formal setting. We have much work to do during this legislative session. I want you to know that I will work vigorously with you to continue to polish the apples that we are harvesting from our orchards of opportunity. In a little over a year's time, Sandra and I will depart from public life after almost 4 decades of service to the people of the state. But others in this chamber and beyond will continue to have great opportunities to serve their fellow Georgians. As you do so, I urge you not to neglect the trees and the orchards that we have planted over these past 7 years. What we do in this historic building, the actions we take in these chambers of service, the choices we make while in positions of elected authority must be for the betterment of all Georgians. We must adopt the same mindset and gaze as the pecan farmer in South Georgia who plants a tree and knows that its growth is well worth the decades of careful attention that it will take to nurture it to its greatest potential, just as a parent does the same for a child. That is who we planted these trees for, after all, our children and our grandchildren. They are who we must call to mind on every bill presented, with every vote cast, and with every campaign announcement. Will our actions help or hinder those who come after us? My administration and I have worked diligently these past 7 years to serve our fellow citizens. But we have work yet to do in this final session. But soon we will be looking to you, ladies and gentlemen, to water and tend the orchards of opportunity we have planted together, and to continue planting seeds and saplings of potential, not for personal gain, but for those who will in future years come during the heat of the Georgia day and be cooled by the shade of those trees. And now, in these last moments that I have with you today, I want to say how very thankful I am for your partnership over these past 7 years. A little more than a half of the legislators here today, as I pointed out earlier, were not in office when I gave my first State of the State address in 2011. Yet, whether it was with old partners or new ones, we have still worked together and have done so over the past 7 years to once again make Georgia the #1 state for business 5 times over, to be a leader in many other areas of pressing issues in our time, and to make it a state where many people want to live, learn, work, and raise their families. I also want to thank all those in the executive branch who have served so diligently to improve the lives of our fellow Georgia citizens and fulfill their constitutional responsibilities. From our agency heads and commissioners on down to our leadership teams, support staff, compassionate caseworkers, officers, and all state workers, thank you for what you do to make our state more prosperous, secure, educated, and free. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank my senior staff, both past and present, who have given so much of themselves over these past 7 years for the benefit of others. Some have gone on to serve their fellow Georgians in other capacities, while others have remained with me since the very beginning of my term. Some, in fact, have been with me for decades. They've become an extension of my family, and to them I say, Sandra and I will always cherish what you've done for us and want you to know that you are indeed very important to me. Finally, I want to speak directly to the citizens of Georgia. Words alone are incapable of expressing how grateful I am that you have allowed me and Sandra to serve you. It has been the honor of a lifetime to travel every part of our great state and to marvel at the character, fortitude, and talent of our people. The achievements we have enjoyed are ultimately the result of your hard work and perseverance. Thank you for putting your trust in us. Thank you for your kindness, your support, your encouragement, and your prayers. Today, I can say with great authority that the state of our state is not just strong, it is exceptional. Since, as I've already pointed out, over half of you were not here when I gave my first State of the State address in 2011, I want to share with you a portion of that speech. It's a pretty good reflection on what our goals were then, and we can measure it against our successes to date. And this is it, quote, "Let us refocus state government on its core responsibilities and relieve our taxpayers of the burden of unnecessary programs. Let us be frugal and wise. Let us restore the confidence of our citizens in a government that is limited and efficient. Together, let us make Georgia the brightest star in the constellation of these United States." End quote. So today, as we stand beneath the trees and the orchards of opportunity that we have planted, and as we look up into the heavens, we can see that the light of our star now shines the brightest of them all. And that light will endure and will not fade away.
Will the Committee of Escort please escort the Honorable Nathan Deal, Governor of Georgia, and his distinguished guests from the chamber.